Start with the why behind winning. When we talk about winning, most people imagine a finish line, a medal, or a loud crowd cheering. But those things, while exciting, are just symbols. They're the surface. The real question, the one that fuels people to keep going when no one is watching, is why they want to win in the first place. Without a strong why, effort becomes mechanical, and mechanical effort never survives the storms of doubt. The why behind winning is deeply personal. For some, it's proving to themselves that they can rise above the limitations others placed on them. For others, it's creating a life that feels full, purposeful, and aligned with their values. This is not about outshining others. It's about outgrowing yourself. When you find that personal reason, your mindset shifts from I have to I get to. A strong why makes resilience automatic. Imagine someone running a marathon in freezing rain. Without a compelling reason, they'd quit by mile 2. But if they're running for a cause they deeply believe in, their mind reframes discomfort as part of the mission. Pain becomes a message. You're still in the game. That's the power of the why. It redefines challenges as stepping stones. When you start with why, you anchor yourself to something that can't be taken away by circumstance. Results can be delayed, applause can fade, but your purpose remains. This is why some of the most successful people in history never stop pushing, even after reaching milestones. They weren't chasing the trophy. They were chasing the reason behind the trophy. Without a why, goals become empty checkboxes. You hit them, feel a short-lived burst of satisfaction, and then fall back into uncertainty. But with a why, every goal becomes part of a bigger story you're telling about yourself. You start to see setbacks not as derailments, but as plot twists in that story. The why also determines your definition of winning. If your why is to make a difference in people's lives, you might find victory in small daily acts of kindness, not just in big career achievements. If your why is about personal growth, you might feel you've won every time you push past fear, no matter how small the step. Winning becomes a daily practice, not a distant event. People who lack a clear why often burn out quickly because their energy is fueled by external pressure instead of internal conviction. But when you know your why, you don't have to push yourself endlessly. You're pulled forward by something that matters to you. That's the difference between discipline that feels like drudgery and discipline that feels like devotion. Your why is the invisible engine that drives a winning mindset. It doesn't always roar loudly. Sometimes it's a quiet hum in the background, guiding your choices and giving meaning to your effort. And when the world seems chaotic, it's that why that keeps you steady, focused, and unshaken. Define your personal victory before you can build a winning mindset. You have to know exactly what winning looks like for you. Too often, people borrow someone else's definition of success. Money, status, recognition, and chase it without stopping to ask if it actually fulfills them. The problem is, running toward a goal you don't truly care about can leave you exhausted and empty, even if you reach it. Your personal victory should be something that feels like yours. Something that matters so deeply it stirs you every time you think about it. Defining your personal victory starts with asking the right questions. What would make you proud of the person you are becoming? What would make your life feel meaningful, even if no one else ever knew about it? These questions force you to step away from society's scoreboard and create your own. That's how you set a destination that's worth the journey. Your victory doesn't have to look impressive to anyone else. For one person, it might mean building a thriving business. For another, it could mean being present for every moment of their child's life. It could mean running a marathon. Or it could mean finally finding peace with yourself after years of self-criticism. The size of the victory is irrelevant compared to its significance to you. When you define victory on your own terms, you give yourself permission to focus on what truly matters, not on what's trending or popular. This clarity protects you from comparison, the endless trap of measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel. It's hard to feel behind when you're not even in the same race as everyone else. Personal victory is also about alignment. It's not just about what you achieve, but how you achieve it. If you reach your goal, but sacrifice your values or health in the process, it's not really a win. That's why part of defining your victory is deciding the boundaries you won't cross, and the kind of person you'll remain, no matter how tempting shortcuts might be. Clarity on your personal victory also transforms your daily decisions. If you know your aim is to live a healthy, energetic life, then the choice between fast food and a nourishing meal isn't just about taste. It's about alignment with your bigger goal. If your aim is to inspire others through creativity, then every small act of making art, sharing ideas, or experimenting becomes a step toward that victory. Defining victory in personal terms removes the need for constant external validation. You stop needing the world to clap for you, because you know what you're working toward and why it matters. Even if others don't understand your goal, the satisfaction you feel from moving toward it will keep you motivated in ways applause never could. Your personal victory is a compass, not a finish line. It points you in the right direction when choices are unclear, and it reminds you why the effort is worth it when progress feels slow. Once you define it, every step you take starts to feel intentional, connected to a bigger purpose, and worth the investment of your time and energy. Reframe failure as fuel. Failure has a way of feeling final. It can hit like a closed door, convincing you that the path forward has ended. But what if failure isn't the wall it appears to be, but a signpost pointing toward a better route? The truth is, failure is rarely a dead end. It's more often a redirection. When you see it that way, its power to discourage you fades, and its power to teach you grows. Reframing failure begins with letting go of the idea that it says something permanent about who you are. A failed attempt doesn't make you a failure. It makes you a person who is learning in real time. Every success story is littered with missteps, wrong turns, and moments of doubt. The difference between those who win and those who stop is not the absence of failure, but the willingness to keep moving through it. Failure is raw data. It gives you unfiltered feedback about what didn't work, where the weak points are, and what needs to change. Success can be deceptive. It can hide flaws and make you think you've mastered something when you haven't. Failure, on the other hand, forces you to look closely, to strip away assumptions, and to get honest about your approach. When you see failure as fuel, you use it to sharpen your skills rather than weaken your resolve. Athletes study their losses to train smarter. Inventors document every failed prototype to refine their designs. Writers edit drafts that didn't land until the words finally click. Each failure becomes a building block, a step toward a better version of the work. There's also a mental resilience that comes only from navigating failure. Every time you push through disappointment, you prove to yourself that you can recover. That proof is worth more than the temporary comfort of avoiding risk. Over time, you stop fearing failure because you've learned it doesn't break you. It strengthens you. The emotional sting of failure is often the toughest part to deal with. That's why reframing it requires self-compassion. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" start asking, "What can I learn from this?" That shift turns your attention from shame to curiosity, opening the door to solutions instead of self-sabotage. Failure also builds humility, and humility is a powerful ally in growth. It reminds you that there's always more to learn. That mastery isn't a one-time achievement, but a continual process. When you approach each setback with the mindset of a student, failure becomes less of an insult and more of an invitation. The people who turn failure into fuel are the ones who keep going when others stop. They treat each setback not as proof that they should quit, but as evidence that they're in the process of getting stronger, smarter, and better equipped for the next challenge. Discipline over motivation. Motivation is a spark. It feels powerful in the moment, but it fades quickly. You've probably experienced days when you wake up excited to tackle your goals, only to find that energy gone by the next morning. It's emotional and emotions change. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. It's the structure that keeps you moving forward long after the initial excitement has worn off. Discipline is about making choices based on commitment rather than mood. It's showing up to do the work not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. This isn't glamorous, and it's rarely exciting, but it's the foundation on which all lasting success is built. When discipline is in place, you don't have to wait for the perfect emotional state. You just follow the system you've built for yourself. People often mistake discipline for restriction, but in reality, it creates freedom. When you consistently take the right actions, you free yourself from the stress of last-minute decisions, from the guilt of neglecting your goals, and from the chaos of an unpredictable routine. Discipline streamlines your life so your energy is spent on progress, not on debating whether or not you should take action. Motivation tends to thrive on big moments, New Year resolutions, inspirational speeches, sudden bursts of ambition. Discipline, however, thrives in the small, uncelebrated moments. It's in the decision to go for a run when it's raining, to write another page when you're tired, to prepare a healthy meal instead of ordering fast food. These choices may seem small, but they compound over time into extraordinary results. One of the strengths of discipline is that it's self-sustaining. The more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you reinforce your identity as someone who follows through. That identity then fuels even more discipline, creating a feedback loop of consistency and confidence that motivation alone could never provide. Discipline also protects you from the unpredictability of life. Challenges, setbacks, and distractions will always appear, and if you rely on motivation, you'll find it too easy to postpone action until you feel ready again. Discipline removes that option. It makes the decision for you before the moment arrives. You act because it's part of who you are, not because the conditions feel perfect. Building discipline requires intention. It's about designing routines that make the desired behavior the default choice. This might mean setting clear work hours, preparing gym clothes in advance, or removing distractions from your workspace. You don't leave your actions up to chance. You set up your environment so that following through is easier than quitting. When you put discipline over motivation, you trade short-term highs for long-term progress. You stop chasing the fleeting rush of inspiration and start building something that lasts. Over time, that steady commitment becomes a quiet kind of power. The kind that moves you forward every day, whether the world is cheering you on or not. Control the controllable life is full of moving parts, and many of them are completely outside your influence. The weather, the economy, other people's opinions. These are forces you can't dictate. Yet it's easy to spend hours worrying about them, replaying scenarios in your head, and feeling powerless. The truth is, the more attention you give to what you can't control, the less energy you have for what you can. Shifting your focus to the controllable isn't about ignoring reality. It's about choosing where to invest your effort. Controlling the controllable begins with self-awareness. In every situation, ask yourself, what's within my influence right now? It could be your attitude, your preparation, your habits, or the way you respond to challenges. By identifying those areas, you reclaim your sense of agency. You stop feeling like life is happening to you and start acting like a participant in your own story. When you focus on the controllable, you build resilience. Adversity is inevitable, but the way you show up in those moments is a choice. You can't stop the rain from falling, but you can decide whether to carry an umbrella or dance in the downpour. This mindset transforms problems from immovable obstacles into opportunities for adaptability. Focusing on controllable also makes your progress measurable. If your goal is to improve your health, you can't control the exact speed at which your body changes, but you can control how often you exercise, what you eat, and how much you sleep. Measuring these actions gives you a clear picture of your consistency, which is far more reliable than chasing unpredictable results. One of the biggest traps is wasting energy on other people's behavior. You can't control whether someone supports you, doubts you, or misunderstands you. You can control the boundaries you set, the way you communicate, and the effort you put into your relationships. Letting go of the rest not only protects your peace, but also frees you to focus on actions that actually move you forward. There's a quiet confidence that comes from living in the space of the controllable. You stop trying to micromanage the universe, and instead, direct your attention toward what's in your hands. That clarity keeps you steady in uncertain times, because you know your power lies in your response, not in the chaos around you. Training yourself to focus on controllable is a daily discipline. It means catching yourself when your thoughts spiral toward things you can't influence and redirecting them toward productive action. Over time, this shift becomes second nature, and you find yourself less reactive, less frustrated, and more grounded. When you master this skill, challenges become less overwhelming because you no longer measure your success by forces outside your reach. You measure it by the consistency, effort, and mindset you bring to each moment. Knowing those are the levers you can always pull. Speak the language of possibility. The words you use shape the reality you live in. When your vocabulary is filled with limits. I can't. It's too late. That's impossible. Your mind begins to see the world through the lens of restriction. But when you speak in terms of possibility, well, what if I can try? It's worth exploring. You open mental doors that would have otherwise stayed shut. The language you choose becomes the script your life follows. Speaking the language of possibility doesn't mean ignoring difficulties. It means refusing to let them define the entire picture. It's the difference between saying this is too hard and this is hard, but I can figure it out. That subtle shift creates a space for solutions to emerge. The moment you frame a challenge as solvable, your brain starts looking for ways to solve it. This way of speaking changes the way you approach risk. Instead of focusing on all the ways something could go wrong, you start asking how it could go right. This doesn't eliminate fear, but it balances it with curiosity. You're no longer paralyzed by the unknown. You're motivated by it. Your self-talk is the most important audience for this language. The things you repeatedly tell yourself become your beliefs, and your beliefs dictate your behavior. When you replace limiting statements with possibility-driven ones, you build a mindset that expects progress rather than doubts it. Over time, this expectation becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The language of possibility also influences how others respond to you. People are drawn to those who see potential where others say obstacles. Your optimism becomes contagious, inspiring collaboration and creativity. Teams, friendships, and communities thrive when the conversation is focused on how we can, instead of why we can't. This kind of language requires intentionality. You have to catch the moments when you're shutting down opportunities with your words and consciously reframe them. It's a practice, not a one-time decision. But as with any habit, the more you do it, the more natural it becomes, until you automatically speak in ways that expand rather than contract your world. Speaking possibility doesn't mean guaranteeing success, but it ensures you stay open to it. When you approach situations with this mindset, you spot chances others overlook simply because you're willing to believe they could.